One thing you can be certain of in life, sometimes to move forward, you gotta take a couple steps back. Maybe you caught it, maybe you didn't, but in the last video there was a moment when I said, I'm gonna take the bonnet off and I'll talk about that later. I actually did, but that was 10 minutes of the video I actually cut out. And I thought, you know what, I need to actually talk to you guys about that. And I wanna first preface this episode by saying I'm not trying to throw shade, not trying to throw anybody under the bus. The whole purpose of this vlog of TueZday Garage is to arm you, the internet, other car enthusiasts, with information and knowledge that didn't exist when I started this project. At least not in a video way, or at least I couldn't find it. So if you want to do this swap, you have a point of reference. There's lots of points of reference. I just want to help create another point of reference, okay? That said, we need to have a big discussion about the McKinney motor mounts. I have mocked up everything the way it's supposed to be, the way it's designed to be. So let me read something really quick, and this is directly off of their website. This kit will work with the RB motors, with RB25 Grady style, RB20 Rib style, and RB26 stock for hood and intercooler clearance. I'm gonna put up the picture right now of the car that they show on their website, and if you pay close attention to the position of the crank angle sensor, the CAS. Pay very close attention to that picture and the position of the CAS. And now I'm going to put up a picture of my car and see how the two match. See how they're extremely similar. See how they're in the same position. That tells you that I have put this engine in and mounted it exactly the same way that it's supposed to be mounted according to the pictures that they have on the internet as a reference. Everything I've done is correct. And I'm telling you guys, the hood does not close with the RB26 in the car, man. It doesn't. It does not close. I did all kinds of tests. I put my phone underneath the hood. I had lights. I was taking videos while I was trying to close the hood. At first, the hood was hitting the front cover, that front leading edge. I removed that cover, and sure enough, it was hitting the front leading edge of the valve cover. Still too high. There's nothing I could do about it. There's nothing I could do. Now, let me read you one other part from this website. It says, transmission is the hybrid 300ZX guts and the RB2526 bell housing. May not fit auto trans or 2+2 due to different trans mount location. Let me call some shenanigans right there, because the transmission mount is in the exact same place, whether it's a 5-speed or an automatic, whether it's a 2+2 or a manual. That does not change the fact that the engine and the transmission in all those different combinations is the exact same engine and transmission used throughout the entire series. Whether it's a twin turbo, whether it's a non-turbo, whether it's an automatic or a manual, they all mount in the exact same holes in the body of the car. It's from that point back that the difference exists between the 2+2 and the 2-seater, or the difference in the auto and the manual. That being said, there's no way you could say that because it's 2+2 or 2-seater that it's different. I've talked about this before. It's obvious that this kit was made with the transmission mount installed backwards, okay? The reason you could tell it was backwards is because there's a clip on it to hold the ground wire for the speedometer pinion, and it was on the wrong side. So that's how I know. That's how I know, and I've been working on these cars 20 years. I know, okay? I just know. I just happen to have an extra set of the McKinney mounts, the plates, laying around. These two holes are actually what bolts to the stock location for the motor mount on the Z32 crossmember. It looks something like this. It's a wide hole, and the reason why is because on the Z32 engine mount, it's got a bolt that goes through, and then it's got like a little rubber nipple that sticks off of it, and it just kind of helps take out any kind of movement. So these two bolts are designed to go through a big hole like this and keep it from moving around. Now, once you do that, you see how this is bent up at an angle. Now this is designed to bolt to the cross member kind of in the middle. You have to drill a hole to do that. However, once you bolt this in place and it's firmly in place, there is actually a gap between here and the cross member. I filled that gap with some washers to make it more solid, rigid piece. The only thing I can think of, guys, you're meant to put this thing in place, drill the hole for the cross member here, and then torque this down until this piece goes flush with the cross member, essentially bending this metal downward so that it's at a sloped angle and not at a flat plane, 90 degrees. If it's meant to do that, if you're meant to only bolt it here and then put the engine in and let the weight kind of bend it all back down so that this goes flush out, okay then. I mean, that doesn't seem solid to me, man. What? To me, that is not sound engineering. If the intent is to have this in at a slope like that. Even still, I guarantee that if you did that, this would not fall to such an extent that it would drop the engine low enough.
Yeah, actually, that can't be the answer either, because if you look, that L-shaped bracket is sitting on the cross member. So all I did was take out the space of that, but there's no way it's going to come down any further. I don't know, man. Alright, so you can see the insulator, and you may not be able to tell on camera, but it's actually kind of mushed out on the sides just a little bit. And that's just the process of tightening it down. Now, if I tightened it even more, that isolator would squish out more on the sides. But I can't imagine that doing that and causing that thing to compress more would be the solution to dropping the engine. That doesn't make sense. It does not make sense, guys. With this kit, I don't know of any other way to get the engine any lower with the kit. I suppose you could remove some of the washer plates. Now, you're going to see these rubber washers that I have installed. Those are so thin, especially when compressed. Those are not going to cause any kind of difference in our height. There's no way that those are causing any variation. If they are, it's like a 1/16 of an inch. It's like less than a millimeter, guys. You'll see here now that look how low the engine is now. The CAS is very well tucked down. The engine is way, way lower. With the timing belt cover off, I'm going to show you a cell phone video that I took while I was closing the hood. And as you can see, as it's coming down, you could see how close it is. And I'm telling you, I dropped this engine down 3/8 of an inch in order to get it to be this close. From the clearance that is there, there's no way I'm going to be able to run a front cover on the front of this engine. And that, guys, that makes me sad. That makes me sad deep down in my heart. Really, really does. BC, what did you do to drop the engine? Well, I went out and bought a stick of this. Aluminum plate, 1/8 of an inch thick by 1.5 inches. Now, the reason I did 1.5 inches is because that's about the same thickness of the frame rail itself. And I cut these into 8.5 inch strips, so about that much. 2 holes going through it, and then I stacked 3 of these on top of each other to get a 3/8 of an inch drop. I was able to lower the engine on one side, put the 3 plates in between the frame rail and the cross member, tighten that up, torqued it all to spec, went over here, lowered this one, put the 3 plates in there, and now, guys, the engine is low enough. Again, super sad and really kind of nervous about not having a front cover, but I don't see any other way to do it with this kit. You can see the edge of the plates sticking out right there. Again, 3 plates, they all have holes drilled through them so that the 2 pins, that one and that one there, can get through the plates. Very much held in place, and they span the entire surface area that the cross member actually touches and mounts to the frame rail. I'm kind of at one of those points of no return. This kit from McKinney Motorsports is specifically designed for the RB26 with the RB25 pan. It is not designed for you to use the RB26 pan. Regardless, no matter what pan I use, there's no way I'm getting it lower without removing the stuff that they actually provide. Even if I did that now, we're talking about those 2 little metal washers on top and bottom of the isolator. It's maybe 1/8 of an inch, and that's still not going to be enough, guys. It's still not going to be enough. I talked at the very beginning of this about moving forward requires taking steps back. I hope that if you're watching this right now, you haven't been playing along this whole time, that you're actually watching this whole thing, and then you're going to build your car, because I'm telling you now, you're going to have to space out your cross member to the frame rail. I don't see any other way around it, guys. Now, if you look at some other guys out there that have done this swap, like for instance, Scott H.
His white Z, dark bluish purple valve covers, beautiful single turbo setup, and he's been one of my mentors, man, for a long time as far as this project goes. He built his own custom engine mounts that go from the block to the frame rail, and it's all welded in, and his engine sits quite a bit more forward. As I discussed before, this engine setup actually causes the engine to sit about a ½ inch back. I think if we had that other ½ inch forward, then we could actually somehow get even lower, but I put this out there as information, guys. Do your research, do your homework. It was very emotional for me to get this far along in a project and be faced with the decision to make an alteration to this car that I'm not 100% comfortable with. I'm just not. But I've done it safe. I've been thorough. I'm not worried about it. I am worried about not having a cover on the timing belt. I think I'm gonna put some safeguards in place. Definitely gonna put a splash guard underneath, probably all the way from the front of the car to the cross member, so that way make sure there's no road debris that can ever jump up in between the front part of the engine here. Okay, that's all I want to say about that. Again, it's not about throwing shade. It's not about dissing anybody. It's not about being ungrateful for the research and development that people have put into something. It's what I've discovered. Looking at the examples I have from the manufacturer, I did everything the way I was supposed to do it, and this is the problem that I have. So anyway, I hope you learned from that. So let's move on to some other things. I am finished with everything in the front. It is time to put all the body panels on to get this thing looking like a Z. So that's what I'm going to work on now. And then we're going to talk about the amazingly good fortune that happened to come my way in getting the exhaust done. It's unbelievable. Dude, back to looking like your normal everyday Z32. Little bit of front mount action, little peekaboo on the oil cooler. Everything fits so well, so good. A little bit of touching here on the pipe. It's kind of flexing this piece up a little bit, but nothing noticeable, man. The other side's just fine. I don't really want to trim the bumper right now just because I don't want to disturb this paint job. Perhaps when we go to get this fender repaired, I could talk to Scott over at the paint and body shop, and maybe they can do that little trimmy trim for me and do any paint touch up that starts to flake or cause a problem because of that. But man, she's so dirty, but she looks so good. Back to looking like a Z. Oh, let me check out your Z. Oh yeah. How about that? Yeah! Oh man. Innocent enough, huh? Oh. So I finally got the battery completely installed the way I want it. And what I did is, originally when I had it in just kind of chilling out, I had the posts on this side, which put the positive in the back and the negative in the front. And went ahead and turned it around the other way, and just to ensure that everything's safe and secure, you could see I took this piece of coupling and actually riveted that to the sidewall, to the inside of the engine bay, so there's no way the positive can ground out on the side of the engine bay. Also, it's got this covering, and then I put this piece of tubing also on the strut. There's no way we're going to ground out, no way we're going to cause any electrical problems. The whole reason why this space exists right here is because Radium Engineering makes a dual oil catch can that will sit right here. And yeah, we'll get that all installed when the time comes. But like I said, I really want to get some miles on this thing first before I start making any kind of modifications. But we're already preparing for certain things to be modified and or changed. Probably fuel rail, catch cans, and I think that's about it that I could think of right now. I'm sitting at work the other day, just kind of plugging along, doing what I need to do for the day. Over the cubicle wall, I hear this young man talking. He works in a different department, and he's just talking about how he's going to be doing some work on his car, probably in the next weekend or so, and was looking for some advice on how he should do a certain piece of exhaust, and was saying, you know, should I weld this, weld that, whatever. And I stuck my head over the top and I said, hey, you know how to weld? He's like, yeah, I actually got all my own welding equipment. I said, really? So I have recruited the help of this young man, and he should be coming over hopefully in the next couple days to help me start working up the exhaust. It's gonna be sweet, man. I mean, we're talking now, we're not paying somebody and we're not towing the car somewhere. I'm not paying to rent the equipment. I'm definitely gonna give this guy a kickback. It's awesome to have like a coworker that's basically hooking me up. So that is totally awesome. I'm gonna actually go ahead and end this here. It's gonna be a little bit of a short episode, very talky episode, but I feel it prudent to go ahead and end this episode on a singular subject, and that is the subject of these engine mounts. I need you to digest what I'm saying. I need you to think about it, and when you attempt this swap, if you're using the same parts I am, I need you to really take into consideration what I'm talking about. The whole purpose of this vlog is information, to arm the world out there with one person's experience, and granted, I'm just one person's experience. You can't build an average off of one happenstance, but I think I've presented the evidence enough. Make your own decision. That's all I'm going to say. Make your own decision. Guys, I'm making a quick interjection into this video, and I'm doing it on my phone, so the quality's probably different, but listen, I've been editing this video for a couple hours. There was a point where I showed the hood closing, and it was really close to where the belt was and the valve cover, and I thought, you know what? I have to. For my curiosity, I gotta run one test just to really validate what I'm saying. And so if you look, the clear cam cover is back on the engine, and I'm gonna show you a video I just took of me closing the hood. And if you look, as it comes down and as it clicks into place ever so slightly, does it touch and move that timing belt cover. That said, if I'm touching this cover after dropping the engine 3/8 of an inch, I was most definitely touching the cover before it was ever dropped. I'm gonna leave this cover on, and even though it's touching, I'm okay with it because this is a soft plastic. Now, if I was using the stock timing belt cover, which is metal, I probably wouldn't do it because vibrations and whatnot would be going through the hood and possibly cause an outward dent in the hood. And I don't want to do that. Because this is a plastic, the plastic's going to give first. We might get some discoloration on this upper edge, but the good news is that this part of the hood where it touches, it's a harder metal, it's part of the skeleton, it is not the outer skin. So we would actually have to dent 2 layers of metal, one harder than the outer one. I'm going to leave the cover on, and I'm really happy about that, guys. I'm really happy about that. We'll see how it goes after the first couple weeks of driving. And we'll make a determination on there whether it needs to come off. Now that she runs, all the body's back on, tomorrow I'm taking her outside and I'm gonna give her a nice bath. I'm gonna get her washed up, make her look nice and fresh and clean, get her ready to start doing the exhaust work, and man, what about the future of TueZday Garage? TueZday Garage is gonna continue. Even after this project's done, at some point, we'll definitely do a complete car walkthrough, walkover, talk through thing, stuff. So that way I can go back over all the parts, all the brands, all the shout outs, and that way you kind of know exactly what I did. Beyond that, yeah, we'll do stuff from time to time, whether it's modifying this or, man, dare I say, some other project. Maybe not my car, but I do have somebody in town that's looking to bring their R32 over here that they just got to have me do a once through on it, so that might be something kind of cool. Anyway, amici, that's all I got. Ciao a tutti and aloha. Bye bye.